Welcome to Golden Mastermind Seminars Radio with your host, Jeffrey Combs.
Good afternoon, Jeffrey Combs, 2 for Tuesday. Welcome to Tuesday Facebook Live. It is the last Tuesday of September as we are moving into the fall season of the year of our Lord, 2023. Topic for today's Facebook Live is neurons that wire together, fire together. I first heard of this term in 2005 from the movie What the Bleep that featured the great Joe Dispenza. If you've not seen that movie, that was a really groundbreaking movie, especially for its times. That came out in late 2005 and it really launched Dr. Joe Dispenza's career as he was featured in several clips in that movie along with, I believe, Greg Braden. And actually, Braden was in another movie, but it was Dr. Joe Dispenza. And one of my clients knew the associate producer of that movie and arranged to introduce me to Dr. Joe Dispenza. I was given his phone number, I called him, and then I booked him to speak for me in 2006. And since then, I had Dr. Joe speak for me on 5 occasions. So neurons that wire together, fire together. You can find that content in the movie What the Bleep. The theatrical release was 2005, and you can find Dr. Joe Dispenza's clips and his book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, Evolve the Brain, but especially Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. I shared the stage with him on 5 different occasions. So that's the content today, is the neurons that wire and fire that form the feelings. That's what I'm going to cover today to assist you to have a better understanding of cause and effect, why you do what you do, and then the practical application of letting go, the separation from the feelings of the events that shape them. If you find yourself addicted to a set of feelings, if you find yourself procrastinating and avoiding, if you find yourself binge eating at times, if you find yourself avoiding doing situations that you should be doing, there is a reason that you do this. And there is a reason in your brain that it happens. If you have brain fog, if you're overwhelmed, well, the neurons that wire and fire that form the feelings, if you ever saw it under a microscope, they start coming together and they start forming a feeling. They start bouncing and they start collapsing and they bond. And so the neurons that wire and fire and anxiety, fear, and doubt, they come together and they form the feelings of anxiety, fear, and doubt that are emotions of anger, hate, resentment, guilt, shame, abandonment, rejection, overwhelmed feelings, grief, apathy, and pride. So those are the emotions that comprise the neurological network of neurons that wire and fire that form your feelings that create your addictions. Addictions are driven by the fight or flight mechanism. The fight or flight mechanism is the automatic reaction that creates the cortisol-adrenaline connection. The cortisol-adrenaline connection is what creates the overwhelmed feelings. And when you live in an overwhelmed feelings, that is what happens. You avoid, you procrastinate, you get ready to get ready, you make excuses, you have a good intention, poor delivery, then you are going to under-earn, underachieve. You're going to have challenges in your life living this anxiety, fear, and doubt. And this is why so many people fail in business ventures, because of conditioned behavior. You're conditioned to have a job. You're conditioned to get educated, conditioned to go to college, but you take that conditioning out of that comfort zone and move that person over here with the possibility to be free, create a business from the comfort of their home, buy a franchise, be a real estate investor, sell insurance, any multitude of situations that you have not been conditioned to behave in. It creates anxiety about the outcome that hasn't happened. And this is why so many people sabotage themselves by getting ready to get ready. And then they make up excuses. Yeah, but my situation, I don't have the time. I'm homeless. I'm this. Well, I'm recovering from being near homeless. I was in a heroin clinic in 1988, weighing 114 pounds, emaciated, not from heroin, but from alcohol. I went to a heroin alcohol clinic because that's where they had a free bed for me in a county hospital. That's where I became clean and sober in 1988, and that was then everything wasn't just rosy after that. I spent 10 years going through the process of creating a level of self-esteem where I was good enough, comfortable enough to be able to have marginal areas of success as I went through this journey. That was 36 years ago, coming up on 36 years. So for those of you who've experienced sobriety, who have gone through this process of letting go of the overwhelmed feelings, letting go of the brain fog, the feelings of craziness, the feelings of suicide, the feelings of not being good enough, whatever the feelings are, the cravings, the feelings, the hopelessness, the despair, the apathy, the grief that we hold on to create low self-esteem. Every single one of us have within us the ability to be and stay in a relaxed body. We have the ability to let go. We have the ability to create our dreams. We have the ability to design a life, but it requires the belief, the sense of certainty. And it's a navigated process one day at a time. And all of us have that ability to do it. Every single one of us, provided you start to learn how to let go of the anxiety that creates the doubt, the anxiety that creates the uncertainty, the anxiety that leads to avoidance tendencies, the anxiety that leads to not feeling good enough. So the wiring that you hold on to is fight or flight, and it's an automatic reaction to stimulus. As you begin to understand this connection between the mind and the body runs the brain until you're in full command of your emotions. And so that means the body will check out before you even know it. And then that leads to I don't know, I don't understand, this doesn't make sense, I don't understand why I avoid, I don't understand why I stay in these relationships, I don't understand why I keep this job. That's the good intention, poor delivery syndrome that so much of the world lives in. Every Monday, my assistant Henry emails the syllabus for the Tuesday Facebook Live. So on the syllabus today, let's take a look at what we have here. Number 1, why you do what you do. Well, why you do what you do is a byproduct of the events that shape your feelings. If you've been conditioned to behave in unpredictability, if you're an adult child of alcoholics, adult child of narcissists, if you're in a family where you are not good enough, if you're in a family that's critical, if you yourself have become critical, it's going to be a byproduct of the events that shape the feelings. The more you understand the cause that creates the effect, the more you understand the relationships that you lived in, created, dated, mated, and married, the more you understand that, then you will be able to separate your feelings from the events that shape them. So those neurons based on apathy, that's the despondency. Those neurons that wire based on grief, that's loss. Those neurons that wire and fire and come together and that collect and form a feeling. Those neurons no longer have a shelf life as you begin the skill of letting go. As you begin practicing rigorous honesty. As you move into acceptance. As you start to understand gratitude, as you let go of pathological lying to yourself and others, as you admit your errors and judgments, your mistakes, your character defects, as you're able to be a man and a woman who can step into that emotional sobriety, and you can separate your feelings from the facts and the events, and you practice forgiveness, and you start to create amends. There's some people on this Facebook Live today who have a lot of sobriety, long-term sobriety. One of my clients, I see Scott's here, over 20 plus years. I see James is here, multiple years, is moving into his second year. So there's many of you who have been practicing this recovery. Recovery is a skill. Sobriety is a skill. It's the separation between the feelings and the events that shape them. There's Al-Anon, there's CODA, Debtors Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, AA, NA. I've been to every one of them practically, and I could have a home in all of them. I mean, I can go in there in any of the rooms in the world, and I can sit right in the middle of it and receive the message. Many people won't do that. They'll prejudge themselves out of it. They'll say, I'm not like these people. All these people do is talk about their problems. Actually, these are the people who are letting go of their problems. And the more that you understand this, the more you can move into acceptance, the more that you can step into your higher power, the more that you can cast your burden to the Christ within. The more you can let go of the anxiety you hold on to, you begin to raise your energy. That energy is an emotional vibration that you begin to transcend from. It means you're oscillating at a higher frequency. When you're at rock bottom, when you're barely getting by, when you live in poverty consciousness, when you live in lack, scarcity, you are operating at a very low emotional vibration, oscillating at a frequency, it's called cycles per second. You're transmuting your energy at around 25 to 50 cycles a second. In energy, that is a very low vibration. So that is the vibration based on anxiety, fear, and doubt. As you begin to let go, as you separate the feelings from the events that shape them, if you move out of the I don't understand, I don't know why I do this, as you move into higher levels of consciousness, meaning that I know, I'm aware, I understand, as you're able to separate that, you're able to produce in a relaxed body, perform on command, as you're able to let go of the emotional addiction that you hold on to. In the book, Letting Go, Dr. David Hawkins, on page 199, under the chapter of stress, that's a yellow and white book. It also has a black and white cover, but the yellow and white book on page 199, the first two paragraphs of that page, he breaks down the content you require to understand about this specific content. Neurons that wire together, fire together, and they form feelings. And if you are an adult child of an alcoholic, adult child of narcissist, if you grew up in unpredictable circumstances, if you have parents coming and going, if you're never good enough, if you went through a traumatic experience, if you were in 9/11, if you were in a car wreck, if you lost your house, if you lost everything in a fire, any multitude of situations can create the brain fog. The brain fog then continues to escalate because what happens in the brain is the hippocampus, which is short-term memory, is affected. Then the amygdala, which is the emotional engine that searches for feelings. In trauma, not feeling good enough. In being married to narcissists, being around narcissistic behavior. You begin to live in acute doubt. The amygdala shrinks while the hippocampus enlarges. The prefrontal cortex, which is where your ability to decide, discern, and commit becomes affected because it also enlarges. This is acute brain fog. Then the reptilian brain that sees the lions and the tigers. This is where I'm scared. I'm scared to take a risk. I'm scared to start a business. I'm scared to pick the telephone up. Brandy, good to see you this afternoon. Bruce, good to see you. John Wegman, good to see you, my brother. Stephanie, good to see you. Good to see all of you. Suzanne, thank you for being on today's Facebook Live. This is a very impactful call for you. This is old school content that I started learning. I actually started to study the brain when I shared the stage with the great John Assaraf back in 2002. Assaraf was introduced to me by the late Sherry Carr. Sherry Carr was the personal trainer for Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny. Unfortunately, Sherry passed from unfortunate situations, but Sherry introduced me to John Assaraf early in my career. Assaraf lived in Rancho Santa Fe, California at the time. He still has a home there. And he used to come up to Los Angeles in the early 2000s and speak at some of my intimate events for free. And so he was the first person that I ever heard of the amygdala, the pineal gland, the emotional engine, the reticular activating system. I started to learn the brain from him. Then I met Dr. Joe Dispenza in 2006, and I had the privilege of having both of them on stage at an event in Los Angeles in 2007. That was one of the peaks of my career, was to be able to share the stage with both those men speaking about neurons that wire together, fire together. The more that you understand this content, the basics of neuroscience, just the basics of how the body reacts to stimulus, how the brain reacts, and how you can teach yourself how to respond to it. Salespeople, amateur salespeople, have challenges recruiting, prospecting, communicating, talking to people, posting content because of the trauma bonds and panic patterns they hold on to. If you're a leader, you want to learn not to be frustrated with these people, but to understand that the law of the few, a few of these people will have the perseverance to stay in the process long enough. Some of them you can actually lead by example. A few of them you may be able to mentor them. And there's some that you can attract who are evolved enough to be able to have moved above the anxiety, fear, and doubt, and can be and stay productive. One of my clients, Ted Hannick, is experiencing that right now. This Friday, I'll be doing a Zoom Live that all of you can watch, where Ted's going to interview me Friday in front of a few hundred people. It'll be 11 o'clock PST this Friday. Ted is one of those men that I've coached over a 3 going on 4-year period. Ted was a former Emmy Award-winning illustrator for The Simpsons. So he was one of those guys that was writing that pre-programming back when they were using, if you follow The Simpsons, they were letting you know events that were going to happen in the future. If you remember the movie Back to the Future, they used to use the date 9/23 frequently, and that was just a couple days ago. So a date in Gematria right now that is interesting is October 4th. Be aware of some of the happenings that will be going on that day. Breathe, release, and let go. Stay right in the middle of whatever's happening in the world today. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed about the future that doesn't happen. Who you can be and what you can do right now today is you can produce in a relaxed body. Produce in a relaxed body, meaning you become so comfortable with yourself that you're able to be yourself and you're able to produce whatever business venture you have chosen or whatever model you have chosen to monetize in this and next year to create your livelihood so that you can be self-sufficient, so you're not dependent upon anyone else. You're a lot more independent of outside influences. And then the tribe that you begin to associate with, you attract to your reality like-minded success seekers. I have the privilege of coaching multiple women right now that are patriots, that are Christians, that are homeschoolers, that are exceptional women who are part of their own tribes, and they are crushing it in free enterprise. I also coach several real estate investors, a few insurance brokers and insurance investors who are absolutely succeeding in their own business ventures. I also coach several multimillionaire business owners who own traditional businesses, etc. And then there's a large percent of the population who just continues to recycle and get ready to get ready. If that is you, today is a great day to state a declaration that I am so done with this. I am done with procrastinating, avoiding, getting ready to get ready. The way that you use affirmations can change the way a neuron wires together and fires together. That's why speaking into existence, reality you now believe, can change the chemistry of adrenaline and cortisol to where you start to live in a much higher neurochemical it's actually cortisol and adrenaline. You let go of the cortisol adrenaline connection and you live in a much higher energy. And that energy is much more inspiring, and you're not in apathy, grief, rejection, and abandonment. Those are the 4 main emotions that will just suck the life out of you. And if you're married with someone, dated someone, if you let someone traumatize you, cancel you, gaslight you, and you still hold on to these people and these feelings, and this long-term brain fog effect, you're not crazy. What you have is brain fog. And that's the pinball machine that's bouncing around in your head that keeps you in uncertainty, not being able to focus. And hocus pocus, I'm in focus, is an affirmation you can begin to use, because focus is what will rob you of most of your success. If you're an addicted overwhelmer, if you're an addicted codependent, were you enable, enable, over-obligate, do more for others than you do for yourself, you will have challenges succeeding in a business because you will put yourself last because of your own issues with guilt and resentment. And so the neurons that wire and fire in guilt and resentment are very low frequency, low energy, vibrational emotions. So those neurons come from guilt. And those neurons, that person, which is an epidemic, which is most of society, feels guilty if they're not doing something for someone else. if they're not over obligating themselves. Well, there's merits to being able to offer a hand up, but that's different than continue to offer a hand out. So when you're a leader and a leader grower and you're a mentor seeking mentees, you're not looking for people who are rock bottom. You're looking for people who are inspired. You're looking for people who are cause driven. You're seeking people who have a purpose. They have a reason to get up in the morning. They want to homeschool their children. They want to be able to be free of the trauma and the tyranny that they see that's going on in the world. These are people who have a different level of energy. These people are cause and purpose driven. This is a different type of person you're looking for in 2023 and 2024. I mean, you require people who understand what's going on behind the veil. I'm going to drip just a little piece of what I witnessed this last couple weeks. It was classic. For those of you who know me, you know I've been down the rabbit hole for 40 years. Now, I typically don't bring what I believe down that rabbit hole to my social media. I keep it relatively, you know what I know. But the Travis Kelce and the singer, the richest singer in the history of the world, and the commercial that came out of it, that was such predictive programming. That was classic. That was just right down the middle. When you understand trauma-based mind control, when you can separate your feelings from what's going on in the toxic agenda, when you're no longer seduced by mainstream media, when you're able to breathe, release, and let go, when you're able to focus on people who believe what you believe, when you attract people who believe what you believe, you're virtually changing the wiring. You're attracting to your reality people and situations that are purpose and cause driven. These are people who have the grit. They have the edge. They have that inner feeling. They have that emotional search engine that searches for success, inspiration. These people are service, value, and cause driven. They do not whine. They don't complain. They live in the solution. They don't have narcissistic tendencies. These are the people who also buy real estate like this. These are the people who have the money. These are the people who don't have excuses. And you want to be able to let people go easily and effortlessly. They're excuse-driven versus people who are cause-driven. People who are cause and purpose-driven always have the resources. They don't focus on what they don't have. They focus on the solution. And as I was coaching Ted Hannick this afternoon, he asked me how I built a business in the 90s, how I became a millionaire in the direct sales industry. And I told him by 3-foot rule, people I knew and know of, people I met in the gym. Most importantly, I was a postcard king. I had my own postcard company. I wrote content back in the day. I was doing 2,000 postcards a week. And I was a 1-2 call closer. I mean, I could read the situation for what it is because I was purpose and cause driven. And so as I changed my neurological network from rock bottom addict, no self-esteem, to being able to have a vision of wanting to be an entrepreneur in free enterprise, to live the good life, to live life on my terms, seeing the great Jim Rohn a few times in the early 90s, listening to his content, sharing the stage with him in 2005 was a dream come true. I had the privilege of sharing the stage on 5 different occasions with Jim Rohn beginning October of 2000. And Jim Rohn used to say, if you have pennies in your pockets, zero in your bank account, creditors calling, it's time to change your philosophy. And that's where I had been. I had been in trauma bonds. I was a noble struggler. I was just barely getting by, living in small apartments, driving beat-up cars, going to events, seminars, rallies, conventions, reading the books, listening to cassette tapes, but I was failing too much. And so I realized even back then that the neurons that wire and fired, I was wiring on a set of circuits that said, I'm a noble struggler. I can pull this off at the last minute. Oh my God, I'll come in and rescue myself. No, that was too exhausting. And so it's like this. See, the situation can absolutely change when you're committed, but you can't commit until you're committed. You can't energetically, it's not possible to commit when you're interested. You cannot commit from doubt. And it's so imperative that when opportunity knocks, you go, doors open. So when that coach shows up who has the content for you, when that opportunity is right there, when that husband and wife says, here's this opportunity, baby, do you have the courage? Do you have the intestinal fortitude? Unfortunately, what most people do is the neurons that wire and fire, they automatically go into excuse. Excuse number 1 is money. Excuse number 2 is timing. Excuse number 3 is think about it. Excuse number 4 is get back to you. I mean, these are the 4 number excuses that you're going to encounter in a free enterprise business from the comfort of your home. Be used to it. This is what a lot of people do. And then there's also the people who see it, be it, do it, and they have a different set of wiring. They're like opportunists. These are the people who are looking for what you have. There's the people that believe what you believe. These are the people on a level of consciousness, sobriety, recovery. They want to live the good life. They're patriots. They're Christians. They're looking for what you have. They're right there, baby. And it's your responsibility to respond to that situation. And a set of neurons that wire and fire together from inspiration. My name is Jeffery Combs. If you're watching my content today and you have not accessed my free coaching, feel free to reach out to me. I would be honored to speak to you. Send me a message in Facebook Messenger, and I'll respond to you very quickly. I thank all of you for being here this afternoon. Neurons that wire together, fire together. Hey, Heather, how are you this afternoon? Good to see all your comments here. Wojo, good to see you. Josiah Fellaini, love coaching your parents. Thank you for your comments. Josiah is 14 years old, and he's on my call on my Facebook Live today. Josiah, you are the man as a young man. Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon.